What up, YouTube? It's Frisky Dingo here, getting back with you guys with another reaction/review video. Always remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on this video because we are on a grind. That being said, today's video is about the announcement of Idris Elba is joining the 007 universe. Now, we really don't know how he's joining the 007 universe in what capacity, but I'm extremely happy, you know. Idris Elba is one of those actors. He's always been really good. Me, as a kid coming from the urban environment, the hood, I'm very familiar with a lot of the things he's been in. One of my favorite movies, This Is Christmas. He was also in Daddy's Girl and the series The Wire. So I'm really excited. No matter what Idris Elba does, I know it's going to be something good because he always puts his 100% into his acting when it comes to roles he really likes. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to end up doing. Now, as the announcement for the Bond role, I'm excited for that too because Pierce Brosnan had announced, who was the Bond actor between 1995 to 2002. He announced that he was backing Idris Elba and Tom Hardy for the role. So I'm extremely happy with that too, especially because the current vibe from the industry is that no one really wants a black James Bond or a different type of James Bond, which is extremely weird to me because even with the Pierce Brosnan James Bond series, you had like the quick character swap of Moneypenny, which ended up being Halle Berry playing that character, and Moneypenny was basically a white woman before, so it wasn't like this situation is anything new, especially for someone like me. I'm a big James Bond fan, even though I grew up in the hood. I grew up in, I was born in 1993, so I was already raised with GoldenEye being pretty much in all forms of media, from playing video games, from fake games that were made to adaptations. Pierce Brosnan is literally the James Bond I grew up with as a child, coming into Daniel Craig. Now, between that Daniel Craig and Pierce Brosnan, they were re-releasing all of Sean Connery's movies into video games. So I ended up experiencing Goldfinger, No, From Russia with Love, Thunderball. All those movies came out in game form for the PlayStation 2, and that's how I fell in love with Sean Connery's version. Ultimately, a lot of people are more familiar with Sean Connery and Pierce Brosnan's version. I know that there was two other Bonds in between those, in between that time. I know one other guy who did Bond. His name was Ryan something. He actually did Bond the longest. He had a lot of movies that were underneath him, but obviously the most notable is going to be Sean Connery and Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig because of the spin and their broadness in acting, and their skills allowed them to expand who the character was. With Daniel Craig's version, Bond became more of a suave, more emotional, more older, women-getting type Bond. With Pierce Brosnan, he was more fluent and more funky and more actiony in the sense, if you will, really being about the eyebrow raise and fulfilling the mission. And then obviously Sean Connery's was the all-around bad boy, the satisfaction of being a spy and a handsome young man, and the time of your life. That's basically the image of those movies, and because of that, those movies have played extremely well in box offices. That being said, the other Bonds, I don't remember them too much. There was actually about four other Bonds, but those ones obviously fail in comparison to the Bonds that we do know. Especially growing up on GoldenEye, Pierce Brosnan is going to be the number one Bond that you're centered with a lot of the times. So I'm really happy to hear. I know Tom Hardy, he said he's not really interested in doing Bond, but I would love to see him play Bond too. But as we know right now, Idris Elba is in the front running of joining the Bond universe. Neil Kathaskin, who is the one of the main producers of the Bond series, said that they are looking to create more diversity within the Bond series to increase ticket sales. It's obvious what they're saying. You know, people aren't seeing Bond because it isn't relatable. Even though someone like me growing up, you know, unfortunately I grew up with video games, so it wasn't hard for me to get into Bond movies because the first video game I ever got from my Nintendo 64 was GoldenEye. I said, what game is this? So I ended up playing it, and then even up until the last movie, Die Another Day, you know, I was a big Halle Berry fan. So to see her and Pierce Brosnan in the movie, I love that movie. It's like one of my favorite. And a lot of the Sean Connery movies are my favorite too. So, and Daniel Craig. I love all the Daniel Craig movies. Skyfall, Casino Royale, No Time to Die. I love those movies. You can't take them away from me, and I'm very opinionated about those movies. I never have an opinion on these type of movies, but the Bond series just happens to be so good. The books is really where it comes from, so you can see why it does good. But other than that, I'm really excited. You know, even if we don't get, if we don't get Tom Hardy, I would love to see Idris Elba. But honestly, just to have Pierce Brosnan, who is, you know, my childhood Bond, to come up and say, like, I back both of them. I love that type of stuff, especially because, you know, internet personalities like Crowder have been going on the internet saying that James Bond doesn't need to be black. He doesn't need to have diversity. You know, they're never in Africa. What's the point of that? And et cetera, et cetera. And obviously, if you speak to any Bond fan that comes out into the new era, they're going to want to look for some type of diversity. And this is really honest. You know, even me growing up, you know, Moneypenny with Halle Berry was a good move. But also, we got to keep evolving from that. We can't just have, you know, Pierce Brosnan do that once. You know, we can keep moving into a new era of Bond, because the writing for Bond has always been extremely solid. It hasn't been continuous, obviously, because when the books were written, it was all one Bond doing all of these missions. But obviously, they're going to have 3 separate Bonds. Sean Connery playing the idealization of the young version of Bond, which is Playboy Bond. Pierce Brosnan playing a more adult version of James Bond, 35 to 45. 30 to 40. And then obviously Daniel Craig playing a 40 to almost 50-year-old James Bond. And that's why James Bond in Daniel Craig's movies have always been portrayed a little bit older. So I'm extremely happy. Hopefully we get some more news about this, because Pierce Brosnan coming out and saying it, and now all of a sudden, you know, 3 months later, now Idris Elba is announcing that he is going to be a part of the universe. I do officially think that James Bond is going to be Idris Elba, and I'm extremely happy if it is. And even if he's not, he just plays a villain, that's good too. But let's just change the role of Bond up a little bit. You know, I grew up with the same type of Bond, you know, being portrayed in a lot of these versions, even though the Brosnan, Connery, Craig versions are all different. They all skew to the same type of version. We need a new era of Bond. This is a new time, a new era, and I think we really need it. You know, something that really, you know, casses to what we see today. So if I get any more information when it comes to the Bond series, or, you know, update you guys on obviously Idris Elba joining the universe, I will make a new video on it. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.